Hi everyone, my name is AnnaRose Roulley, and for my Capstone project, I looked at social emotional learning and really the idea that it's become a large part of our school curriculum for students, but for teachers, it's largely neglected. And given the demands of teaching and the emotional taxation that comes with the profession, social emotional learning for adults in our schools is an essential component of fostering well-rounded and positive well-being for teachers, faculty, administrators, and all staff. And it's not really something that we desire to have in education, it's something we need. So my project and this presentation will first clarify what social emotional learning actually entails. Then I'll discuss the growing importance of social emotional learning for adults, particularly educators, and why it's crucial for their well-being and the effectiveness of their practice. Then we'll look at the curriculum plan tailored for the community project that will provide social emotional learning to adults in our schools. And the plan really works to highlight social emotional learning and how it can be practically integrated into teachers' workdays, really to equip them with the skills to better support their well-being. I'll briefly talk about the relevance of social emotional learning for adults for multiple stakeholders in our community. And then given that it's a new program, evaluation is key, and we want to measure the effectiveness that the program has to ensure that we're making a meaningful impact and that we're not contributing to further stress or negative well-being that teachers may already feel. And then finally, I'll share 2 example activities that will be used during the program. Social emotional learning, or SEL, is an essential component of both educational and personal development. But what is social emotional learning? So at its core, social emotional learning involves a set of frameworks, lessons, activities that guide both students and adults in developing healthy identities, managing emotions, achieving both personal and professional goals. It also emphasizes the importance of empathy, maintaining and establishing positive relationships, making responsible and caring decisions. But through all of that, we have to think about the question, who is social emotional learning meant for? While traditionally it's associated with students, it's equally crucial for adults, so teachers, parents, people in our community who play pivotal roles in helping our students succeed. So for this project, I focused on teachers because students spend so much of their days with teachers, and that there's this great impact that when teachers have positive well-being, the impacts kind of ripple down into our students. So let's keep in mind that taking care of our educators' emotional well-being is just as important of fostering social emotional learning in our students. I don't want this to say that we should completely shift our focus to only focusing on teachers and not just students. It's a collective effort, and we should really be focusing on both and the well-being of both our teachers and our students. So teaching is professionally demanding, and that's kind of why we have the need for adult social emotional learning. Teachers are asked to manage a classroom, build relationships, connect with the community, all while teaching their academic content. And unfortunately, many teacher preparation programs haven't yet integrated social emotional learning training into the classes that are already existed. So this gap often leaves teachers feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and at a risk of burnout, which means they may leave the field. But if it's addressed, they can develop practices that better support their well-being. So now we also have to consider the positive impacts that it can have for students. When teachers are equipped with social emotional learning tools, they are more likely to use effective instructional practices. The classroom climate becomes supportive, and when a teacher experiences a stable and positive well-being, they're better able to handle challenges that arise and are better able to manage classroom behaviors. So ultimately, the teacher-student relationship strengthens. When teachers feel better themselves, they're able to make connections to students as they feel they kind of have this emotional capacity to do so. They don't feel so drained by the workday that it's hard to then kind of give their all to their work and to the students that look up to them and rely on them. And these are all kind of the foundational aspects of why social emotional learning is so important. But we also have to talk about some solutions. So what's important is that the practices and strategies are intentional and that they're supported by schools. So we don't want teachers to feel like they have to seek out strategies to support their well-being. Schools should be helping provide easy access for teachers so that they can be the best versions of themselves. There's programs like the RISE program, and then also peer support groups. These are structured for teachers. These are things that take place during the school day. There's at multiple levels, so kind of tiered intervention, and then they're backed by district schools and administrators. We want teachers to feel like they are valued, and when we do that, we are able to provide them with resources that help them flourish. So there's some activities, and some of these are ones that I've included in my own project. So there's things like relationship building, journaling, setting healthy boundaries. Those are all tools that are really great to promote positive well-being. So we're going to talk about some relevance of social emotional learning to the school and the surrounding community. So first, of course, it's important and relevant to teachers. It's important to recognize that teachers are the backbone of our education system, and their well-being directly affects their ability to integrate social emotional learning into daily routines for themselves, but also for their students. So by supporting their social emotional health, we encourage them to create classroom environments that are supportive. So this not only aids with their own professional growth, but also enriches the educational experience for their students. We also want to consider the role that social emotional learning for adults plays on administrators. So with poor well-being sometimes comes wanting change, and for education that can mean wanting to leave the field. So when we prioritize social emotional learning, administrators can reduce teacher turnover and increase retention. And this is ultimately all achieved by establishing an atmosphere of trust and support, which is essential for creating these strong faculty relationships. And to cultivate this trust, administration should implement and carry out social emotional learning for adults. And that emphasizes to their staff that their well-being is a priority and something that they will help see through and help them determine practices that really help benefit them. And then there's also this positive effect on the broader school community as well as students. So when teachers manage their emotions well, they can effectively address student needs and create a positive classroom environment. But it also extends outside of the classroom, so it helps foster better communication and collaboration with families and the wider community. And it also strengthens the bond between home and school, as there's this kind of collective goal of promoting a culture of mutual respect, support, and everyone just kind of working together to be the best versions of themselves, both for teachers, students, and everyone alike. So now let's think about the curriculum plan for the community project that I created. So we are involving all K-12 educators, so faculty members, school staff, in this initiative, and it's meant for every adult in our school buildings. So it's an effort to integrate social emotional learning effectively within our school community, and this plan will take place over 10 consecutive weeks during the first trimester, which is the schedule that my school operates on. My school also has daily after-school meetings built into our schedule, so I am going to block out the Monday and Thursday sessions for 30 minutes, and that timing it's meant to kind of promote minimal distractions to teachers' already busy workday, and then also minimal disruptions to teachers' personal schedules, while also maximizing engagement because all teachers will all be there. And the curriculum is kind of founded on the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning. So self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So each week's activities will enforce these competencies. So there are going to be daily activities of journaling and moon check-ins, but then also each of those 5 competencies will work as like the theme for every 2 weeks. And there'll be activities such as a social emotional learning action plan, which I'll show you towards the end. And then also there's going to be activities about practicing decision-making and problem-solving. And the overall goal is to foster a positive, supportive environment that encourages peer connection, meaningful discussions, and a focus just on personal well-being. And it's important to remember that this is designed as a curriculum, but it's meant to be a community effort where everyone works together to build a healthier, more connected school environment. So with any project, we have to evaluate it, and this will be done through both formative and summative assessments, kind of ensuring that we get this complete picture of the impact. So starting with formative assessments, we're going to do that in 3 ways. The first is going to be through surveys. So we are going to conduct a survey both before and after the implementation of the social emotional learning curriculum. And the aim here is to compare teacher well-being from before and after the program was used, and then it allows us to track any improvements or areas that require further attention. The next way is through observation, and by noting changes in real time, we can assess shifts in staff interactions, school climate, interactions between students and staff members, and just overall kind of note the change in the school community. And this helps us understand the direct impact that the social emotional learning has had on like the overall atmosphere of our school. And then the last formative way is going to be through interviews. So through these interviews, teachers and staff get opportunities to express their experiences with the social emotional learning practices. And through these discussions, we can gather feedback about the benefits, challenges, potential improvements, and really helps drive the changes and necessary adjustments to the program. So for summatively, I think the way that would be best would be to analyze documents such as student performance data, attendance records, behavioral records, and help identify trends or correlations linked to social emotional learning implementation. And by combining these efforts, the aim is to create a detailed evaluation that not only assesses the effectiveness, but also highlights areas for growth and development. And when assessing this project, it's important to remember trust. So in my program, we only have about 15 staff members, so there is a high level of trust. But social emotional learning is a very vulnerable thing, and it's important that the teachers that are all participating with one another trust each other, as they are going to be having, deep and important conversations. And that can really contribute to the results and also the evaluation and the effectiveness of the program. So these are 2 example activities. The first is the weekly journal prompts that participants will use to reflect upon their strengths, stressors, areas of improvement, and ways that they can support their well-being. The next one is the social emotional learning action plan. So at the end, they will complete this, and allows them to set goals, identify steps they can take, resources, and support that they will need when they feel that they can meet their goals. And this action plan allows adults to put their well-being at the forefront, and then also kind of commit to bettering themselves in each of the 5 different competencies that we will cover during the 10 weeks. And these are my references. Thank you.